You are listening to Peak One Sports.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Sports Page here on the Peak One Sports Network. I'm Ashton Nix, sitting here with Chris Robb. What is going on, Chris?
Nothing much. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Just getting finished with Memorial Day weekend. Hopefully everybody listening has had a good Memorial Day long weekend, as we kind of discussed last week. How was your Memorial Day weekend?
It was good. Just grilled yesterday. Just hung out by the pool. Had some drumsticks. Made some burgers, salmon. So we had a lot yesterday, but it was good. It was a lot of fun.
Yes. Hopefully everybody had a good meal for Memorial Day. Everybody, like we mentioned, if you're listening, that you had a good Memorial Day weekend. If you are listening, make sure that you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. We have a 100 subscriber challenge going on right now, posed from the Bungalow Sports Show. Go ahead and check them out as well. We're doing great on the podcast side. If you're listening on however you listen to your podcast, go ahead and jump on YouTube and search Peak One Sports. Like, subscribe, follow, do everything. Get notifications so you know when this episode premieres.
Yeah.
You are notified. And definitely comment. We are going to do we're doubling down here on Peak One and doing a 100 subscriber challenge gift. That's going to include a lot of network type promotional type stuff, shirts, hats, stickers, all that good stuff. We're not having a big contest to win. We're just going to pick a random comment on a random video. So comment often. And I mean, you never know what show it's going to be on. And it's not necessarily going to be on a recent one. We don't know. We don't even know how we're going to pick that. We just know it's going to be random. So if anything, just so you could have a chance at winning this package, just comment on our videos. Tell us we're idiots. Tell us we're geniuses. Tell us whatever. We don't care. Preferably geniuses. Like I've mentioned before, we've had a great reception to this network on, just being a few months old. People are nice and great with it. And I'm telling people, hate on us a little bit. Tell us. But once they start doing that, I might not like what I hear.
Mm-hmm.
But, don't go after our intelligence, or do. I don't care. But, let's keep this civil. You can go after our intelligences. Just don't. When all of our listeners and viewers are commenting back and forth, just keep it simple. I promise you, the winner is not going to be a comment cussing out one of our talent or our listeners or viewers. So keep that in mind. But yes, please, you can check out our website too, peak1sportsnetwork.com. We have all kinds of articles, sports stats, information on our shows. Go check that out as well. Now today we're going to start talking about the Washington Commanders. Obviously, we know they've been sold as of right now. I don't believe it's been approved by the NFL, but it looks really good, like it will be approved. Daniel Snyder agreed to sell the franchise for just over $6 billion to a group led by Josh Harris, the owner of the Philadelphia 76ers, as well as minority ownership stakes with Mitchell Rales and Magic Johnson. So you heard everyone, Magic Johnson bought the Commanders? Kind of.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, not really, kind of. He might go to a couple Commanders games. I think he had much more stake in the Dodgers back in the day. But, it's a cool story, I guess. Just over $6 billion was the most ever for a North American sports franchise. Now that, Washington's not usually even on, when they come out with these Forbes top whatever list, the Yankees, the Cowboys, always on that list. Washington, I think they're probably, if they do like the NFL teams, they're like top 10 most valuable NFL franchises. So
why?
That's crazy why they sell for so much.
Yeah, maybe
Uh,
it's because of the location. Maybe I'm not really sure. It's
yeah, I mean, it's a historic franchise.
Mhm.
It's in a good location. I mean, big market. It's got
Yeah.
Washington D.C., Baltimore. It's not necessarily a small market team or anything.
Hmm.
They haven't done well recently, which we'll kind of get into.
Hmm.
But it makes me think, like, what if it'll never happen? I don't think the Cowboys will ever be sold. I don't think the Jones family will ever do that. That's kind of their baby. But
Yeah.
man, how much could they, if the Washington Commanders sold for $6 billion, how much do you think the Dallas Cowboys would sell for, or the New York Yankees?
Probably like 10. It would
I
have to
think
be
it
like
might
something
get to
like
10 billion,
yeah.
unless some ridiculous story comes out and the NFL is forcing the Cowboys
Or
to
something.
sell. It'll never happen. But I mean, I don't know how much Forbes says Washington's worth. I know the Cowboys, as of now, are probably worth, I don't know, 6 billion themselves, maybe a little more now.
Yeah.
But then again, I don't know. If I went and tried to buy a house that was worth 400,000 and I had a bidding war and I'm going to spend 700,000, I'm not sure the banks would let that happen. I know we did get into some bidding wars here recently with real estate, but I don't think you can buy certain things like houses when they're for that much more than they're worth. But I don't know. Sports are a completely different animal. I know not too long ago it wasn't like financially sound to even invest in a sports franchise, and now
Yeah.
you just it seems like all these millionaires are spending few $100 million to buy a franchise and be mediocre for 20 years, and then they can sell it for a few billion.
Yeah.
It's kind of ridiculous. But why we are talking about them is because recently on May 18th, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office informed the Washington Commanders that their application for a trademark had been denied.
Mm.
Mostly the Commander series, I think it's called. It's when Army and Navy play. Something
Yeah.
to do
Yeah.
with that. I don't know why Washington Commanders trademark would matter there. And I'm not really sure what this means about having a team name that. I don't think this necessarily matters in that case because they had a team named the Washington Commanders this past year
Hmm.
without the trademark. I don't know if this means they need to change it or if they will. I think they probably won't. But we're going to talk about what possibilities they are if they would change their name. We're going to go back over this from a couple years ago when, of course, they go from the Washington Redskins to the football team to the Commanders, um, everything like that. Do you personally think, with as little information as you have, not knowing the system like
Yeah.
this, that they'll change their name? Is there any benefit to it,
Um,
or if they're going to be
I'd be kind
forced
of
to?
yeah. I think I think they'll keep their name. I mean, I know that trademark is important though. I think if they were to change it, I would just go back to football team. I mean,
Yeah,
why not? Yeah, because I'm sure they already have. Like they still have apparel and gear and things like that. Um, but yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I would hope they would keep their name because that's three names in the last what however many years since 2018. So
yeah. I
yeah,
mean, I think they're going to keep it just because there's not a precedence for this.
hmm
You've never seen a team change it this many times in such a small amount.
hmm
But you made the point about apparel. If anything, that because I thought uh, that they went to the Washington football team. I personally didn't think it had anything to do with not knowing what they wanted to name it.
hmm
I think they were going to go to the football team for a couple of years, sell all that apparel, make all that money, and then change it and do it all over again. So,
hmm
I mean, if that's the point or if that's the point you're making, I think it'd be more likely that they would change, just new ownership group, new branding, and you make a ton of money selling new apparel. But
yeah,
I like the Washington football team. It grew on me.
Yeah, it did. Yeah,
When you kind of compare it to like a soccer or football club over in Europe
yeah,
or anywhere in the U.S. or in the world, really, they go after that name. I know it got a lot of hate at first, but I think most people like Washington football team over the Washington Commanders.
yeah. I
Um,
do. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, it sounds all right, the Commanders, but I mean, when you think about, okay, it's in Washington, it doesn't make a whole lot. I mean, I guess it does make sense, but it just doesn't make for a great team name, especially when they've had 2 years to talk about this and write articles and cover about what all the potential names could be. They came up with a lot of great names.
hmm
Um, so we're talking about new owner, new branding. Uh, I I think it would help them
yeah,
branding because obviously Washington Redskins comes with its own issues. We're not going to get into the name and wanting to change the name and reasons for that, but there was a lot of dysfunction and toxicity in that organization from the directly from the top. And the Washington Commander name may have even gotten um, soiled a little bit as well with some of
hmm
what happened because Dan Snyder said he wasn't going to sell the team. They were going to have to pry it out of his cold dead hands. I'm just kind of,
Oh yeah,
yeah, that wasn't the actual
yeah,
quote, but that he
yeah,
basically was
yeah,
saying that, and then he ends up selling them, seeing the writing on the wall, seeing that he was going to be forced to sell them if not. So he sells them or agrees to sell them, and then he can be looked slightly more favorable, I guess, in the long run. Less like
yeah.
when Donald Sterling was forced to sell the Clippers.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
so in Snyder's 24 seasons with the Redskins slash Commanders, he went 164 and 220 and two ties, if that matters. Only five teams had worse records during that period. Now, you talk about Jerry Jones and the Cowboys recently. Man, this Dan Snyder and the Redskins just are a whole nother level.
yeah. I think it's because the Cowboys are held to like such a high standard. You know, the America's team. And,
Yeah,
but
I
yeah,
mean Washington's a good. I know
yeah, they're
we're younger,
hmm
so just like the Cowboys, we kind of saw the tail end of that great run, and
hmm
uh, I believe Washington's last Super Bowl was right there before the Cowboys' 3 out of 4
yeah,
wins. They'd won 3 Super Bowls kind of in that era in the 80s and early 90s, and I mean clearly they Dan Snyder's not a sports or football guy or a marketing guy, as Jerry Jones is able to keep the Cowboys relevant and the
yeah,
most valuable franchise compared to the Redskins
yeah,
Commanders. Uh, so in that time, I mean, you go back and look at the Cowboys. I mean, they win games. They win a lot of games, especially
hmm
regular season, not so much in the playoffs.
yeah,
But even take away Jerry Jones' 3 Super Bowls, Jerry Jones has had a more successful run from 1996 after they've won their most recent Super Bowl which is a little bit longer than here Dan Snyder's 24 seasons,
yeah,
or he didn't do much. I think it's hard to have a losing season over that many, or a losing record over that many seasons,
yeah. I think that's
considering
probably
you're
why.
owning the team for 24 years. Usually, if you have a losing record, it doesn't last that long.
Yeah, and I think it's especially when you're getting like draft picks and things like that. But that's probably why their attendance was like sucked so bad for for so long. Because like every time I watch the game, like there's so many empty seats. It's like almost like 60%, 70% capacity. And I remember that was like a talking point. I think it was like a couple years ago how they couldn't even sell out a football game.
Yeah,
So
and they kind of pulled an Oakland Athletics and had some of the top seats
yeah, the top
tarped
seats.
just so
Yeah.
they weren't going to sell the seats and it would make it look like it wasn't completely
hmm
empty.
Yeah. Yeah. That's tough. Yeah, the A's are in trouble too. We can talk about that another time. But yeah,
Well, they're
uh,
on a better path, I would assume,
yeah,
going to
one of
Vegas.
Vegas.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't. Yeah, if you look at their record, it's just horrendous. I don't know if Vegas is that excited about getting him right now, but
Yeah.
They have plenty of years. I suspect that A's ownership, the front office, will miraculously kick it into gear now over the next 3 or 4 years, however, 4 or 5 maybe, however long they have until they actually move to Vegas.
Hmm.
I don't think you're going to have this type of team because honestly, I think I mean, you've seen what Billy Bean has been able to do. Yeah, has been able to do uh, with the little bit the low budget that
Yeah.
occasionally they'll have a winning season out
They
of
have one
nowhere.
of these the
So
past couple of years. Yeah.
yeah, and the ownership group of the A's isn't. They're not. They're definitely wealthy. I think I saw a list where they were. They were somewhere in the top 10 of ownership groups and how much money they're worth or have available
Hmm.
to spend. So money's there, whether it's because they're cheap or whatever. I don't know. I think it was I think it was on purpose to try to get a stadium and try to get all these things with Oakland. Just say, hey, screw you. We're just gonna have a bad baseball team if you're not gonna help us out. And now that they're getting out, I think you'll see differences in how they manage their front office. At
Yeah.
least leading up, like maybe it will take until them moving to Vegas to actually spend some money, do
Hmm.
it, But I think it's there. But again, they sold for over $6 billion. I get that's because of a bidding war, but what do they have? They don't have a quarterback really. I mean, not
Yeah.
not a future quarterback that you're really happy about. They have all these issues in office or
Hmm.
in house with, I realized Dan Schneider was uh, the main issue behind them, but I'm sure he wasn't the only issue going on there. He was just kind of the issue from above. Um, you have a terrible stadium. You have a fan base that I suspect the fan base is willing to jump back on I won't say the bandwagon, but is willing to jump back in and support this team
Hmm.
now that they have a new ownership group. Uh, but there's not a whole lot to look forward to as the new owners coming in. Maybe you're able to get a stadium deal done now.
Hmm.
Um, I think it would be cool if they moved back like into Washington D.C.
Yeah.
Not outside. Although I mean they don't really. It's weird that they play in Maryland, but Washington D.C. is not really in a state, so it's really not that far out of Washington D.C. That'd be
Yeah.
cool to, where RFK Stadium was or whatever, to build a new stadium there. Um, I think it would benefit the new ownership group to change the name to just completely rebrand, go in new.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
I think it behooves them financially to do that as well. I don't think I mean, other than hiring some designers, I don't think there's that much work that gets put into it uh, to get to get all that new name
Hmm.
memorabilia finished.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go through a few names here of what the Washington football team or the football team that plays in Washington could be called if they went that direction to change their name. Off the top of your head, before I go through this list, are there any that stick out that you thought they could have changed their name to before they picked the Commanders?
Um, I really didn't like any of them. Truthfully,
Really?
I thought Commanders probably was the best option. I think I'm trying to
Really?
think of other ones. I'm trying to think of the other names that they were mulling over. Let me look them up really fast.
Well, some
Do you
of
have the
them,
names in front of you?
yeah, I do. Um, some of them, I think they try too hard to mix in with the DC area.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that it's the capital of the USA, that they're working too hard. I think Commanders was part of that. Uh, where more simple names that could have a tie-in would be okay, but they're just trying to reinvent the wheel and just say, hey, this is going to be the next cool team name. Um,
Yeah.
in no particular order, I'm just going to say there's 10 of them in no particular order, the best, worst, whatever. One is the Warriors, obviously because it's capital
Yeah.
of America. There's military tie-in. There
Washington.
would be some trademark issues. It just depends if they want to work through that. But the
Yeah.
Washington Warriors,
Yeah.
you
That's not
scale it on one to
it,
10.
flows,
Just what does it feel for
it
you?
flows a little bit. 1 to 10. like a 6,
A 6.
probably.
Okay, yeah, we're willing to be controversial here. No worries.
Yeah,
Honestly, I think it's a 3 out of 10, just because Warriors is so overused. Uh,
yeah.
every
They got
fifth high
that winning
school,
team.
yeah, every fifth high school mascot is going to be the Warriors. You obviously have it in the NBA. I don't know in college. There's
Uh,
probably a good percentage of them that are Warriors. When you have Tigers,
yeah.
Wildcats, Warriors is right up there. Uh,
Hmm.
honestly, for me, number 9 we have Red Tails. This is named after the Tuskegee Airmen and the first African American military aviators in the United States Army Air Corps. The Red Tails would pay tribute to their military while also keeping the name Red in the name, as a lot of fans insisted on. Um,
That's a solid name.
yeah,
That's a solid name.
yeah, I think it's cool. It's unique enough where you're not going
Yeah.
crazy. It would probably depend on the uniform that they have tied to this, how well it would go.
Hmm.
Uh, with as the Washington Red Tails. But that sounds good. It gives you enough of a history where it makes sense, but it's not like a reach or
Yeah.
overusing it.
Hmm.
And I believe there's a movie about this. I think I
Yeah.
saw a movie. It may be called Red Tails, but I remember
I think.
seeing a movie that had something to do with this.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw it too. Like it's very inspirational. My dad's in the Air Force, so I kind of know about all that stuff. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's a good movie. Yeah. So Red Tails, I like that name. That's good.
Okay. So I'd give it a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I was about to say I said 7.
It'd be hard.
7.
It'd be hard for people to say, I just don't like the name. It would have to be something like Washington Red Tails doesn't sound right. Like, it makes sense. You can't say, well, that's a stupid name. It just probably wouldn't fit. If you don't like it, it's just not your thing.
Yeah.
A couple of weird ones that I don't like, uh, for whatever reason, they just don't sound like sports franchise names. The Ambassadors, the Washington Ambassadors. No, the Washington Americans. See, this is what I'm talking about when you're
They're
trying
trying to,
too
yeah,
hard.
they're trying to do hard. Yeah.
Yeah, you're to tie in Washington D.C. with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand you have the Houston Texans,
Yeah. I was just
as
thinking about
opposed to the Americans, but not. I can't even think of a team, high school, college, professional level that has Americans as their name. But there's plenty that have the Texans, have teams. I say that try to make a point. I can't even think of one off the top of my head, but I know they're there. Not
yeah.
necessarily citizens of a state, but they're names of people.
Mhm.
Uh, of a certain group, obviously non-racially biased like the Redskins were, but and ambassadors, that's just too much. Like, what
Yeah.
an ambassador?
Yeah. I don't like
It,
that.
it sounds like
What would
they have their
what would
own
your master be? Yeah. Like.
a TikToker, like a
Yeah.
brand ambassador. That's what I think of, and maybe that's just
Yeah.
this day and age. That
Hmm.
it's gonna be someone famous on TikTok is gonna be their mascot.
Hmm.
Um, this is one that, okay, when you tell me why, I get it, but it's just the name just doesn't sound right. The Hogs, the Washington Hogs. It's a nod to their famous offensive line that helped them win 3 Super Bowls. So it's a thing. It's not just
Yeah. I don't like that though. It just. I've never really liked like the mascot like hogs. I don't know. It's just something about it. I don't really.
I
Like I
mean, come
don't.
up with a more creative name. Like
Yeah.
Arkansas, that's basically what they are, but they're Razorbacks.
The Razorbacks. Yeah.
Like, go more creative. Like, the
Mhm.
TCU's not the Frogs, they're the Horned Frogs.
Yeah. Exactly.
But it makes sense. I just don't think it's, you have to put it up and think about, okay, what uniforms, what mascots. You can have a hog running around. You
Wow.
can't
Yeah.
you can't take a person dressed up in a hog costume seriously as a mascot. At least I don't think. Maybe there's some creative people that can build that costume and make it look
Right.
badass. But
Yeah.
to me, when I think hog, I just think, little small. I mean, it's obviously not a small pig, but a small animal that's a larger version of a pig.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I know hogs are destructive and strong creatures. I'm
Mhm.
not trying to get away from that. It just doesn't sound right as a name of
Yeah.
a football
Not a
team.
football team. Yeah.
The Washington Retrievers, named after a golden retriever. I think there's opportunity for tie-ins to the sport of football
Yeah,
being a retriever, not really a
yeah,
receiver, but a retriever. I think there's some creativity you could do there.
yeah. It's like a six
Okay.
for me. I just watching the retrievers.
The
It
name
flows.
sounds cool.
I mean, it flows. Yeah, it's
Yeah, it's a
cool.
cool name, but then you think about it, you're the dogs.
Yeah.
It goes
I don't
back with
know.
the hogs. Although,
What
I
would they
mean,
feel
golden
like?
retrievers are very respectable dogs.
Yeah. Would they stay the same colors? Like,
I
I'm
would
just thinking.
assume I don't have any. I didn't look up any logos, and most of the logos
Mhm.
I saw back in the day were all the same color scheme.
Yeah, they probably
Um,
would.
I think they would need to. I think there would be, a lot of upset Washington fans if they
Maybe.
completely change color schemes and everything.
Yeah, yeah,
They're
yeah.
going to do that. They could be what were they in the replacements? The Seminoles or something like that. I can't remember
I
what they
think
were.
so.
Yeah, just go red, white, and blue.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the
red,
only
white.
way to go. If you were going to change your color scheme, go red, white, and blue. But then
Yeah,
that would just
if
be
you're trying to be
too.
like American, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's too
that's
much. I think
yeah,
it's
that'd be too much. I mean, you
that's
already
too,
have the Nationals. The Wizards have gone that way now.
yeah.
The Washington Capitals. Yeah, all of them are red, white, and blue. Yeah, you need to keep the red, the maroonish red and yellow.
Mhm.
And
For a football jersey, I'm trying to think. Well, it would look probably like the Texans because they're maroon red, and I mean, no,
yeah,
they're red and dark
I
blue.
mean, they
Yeah,
don't have to change their uniforms much now.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, they don't have a lot on there except their military brand uniform,
Hmm.
all black, but it's just a W on their helmet now. It says Commanders on their chest. They could just change that to Retrievers and
Yeah,
call it a day.
yeah.
The next one would be the Washington Monuments, which would be, I don't even know how that trademark could even work because you have the Washington Monument.
Yeah, the Washington Monument.
um, and then, when you're trying to Google that for Washington Monument tickets, I
It
think
would
there'd be
be
a lot of confusion there.
yeah, like all the things will pull up. Yeah, I don't like that just for that reason. It's just
They could
you type in Washington monuments and like
they could save money on their
real like
mascots. The Washington Nationals, they do their little, the Rangers do the dot race. They do their
mhm,
race with George Washington and like Ben Franklin and Thomas
yeah,
Jefferson or something. They could just use those mascots, right? As the
yeah,
as the the monuments. Yeah, that's a 1 out of 10 for me. I think that's terrible. That's another one. It's like I get it, yeah, but you need to be
yeah,
subtle with the name of your team in the area.
yeah. It's got to be something that like that's kind of I guess witty, but that's just too, yeah, that's doing too much.
I mean, it didn't even have to make that much sense because you have
Mhm.
the Los Angeles Lakers and the Utah Jazz, although those were
Yeah,
reasons
whenever
because
they
of
were
relocation, but
yeah,
there's not any big lakes in
in
Los
LA,
Angeles, and there's definitely
yeah,
not a whole lot of jazz in Utah. They're at least not known for it.
right.
Okay, next one might be my favorite.
Mhm.
Uh, it would be the Red Wolves, the Washington Red Wolves.
Okay, okay,
The only issue with that is there is a trademark deal there. But from all the articles I've read, that if ownership wanted to work with that, they could get it figured out.
yeah, I like that name. It's that sounds like a football team, like a a red wolf. You can have a mascot that can like whenever they do the logo, it will look cool. I feel like that would be cool.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things like it's not just the Wolves, the Red Wolves,
Red wolves,
uh,
yeah.
like the Seahawks. Seahawks,
Hmm.
that's not a thing. Was that like a seagull? It's just a hawk with the name Seahawk.
Right.
It makes it look a wildcat really isn't a thing. There's not one thing and I mean you can call cats that are wildcats, but that's not a wildcat's not a type of cat. It's just one of those names, just called the Red Wolves. I think that would be really cool. Keep the same color scheme. Um, yeah, and it's just a badass name.
Yeah, yeah,
Nobody
yeah.
can complain for
That's
that.
dope.
We'll
Yeah.
skip number two and go back to it just because number one is actually wolves. But
Hmm.
I mean, I don't think there's anybody that would prefer wolves over red wolves. You're gonna go,
However,
yeah,
red
wolves.
wolves for sure. Yeah, I think red wolves probably like that's just. I think we played a team in college that were the red wolves. I'm trying to think. I think it was Central Washington or something like that. I'm not
Yeah,
sure if they're the red wolves or not, but yeah, that their mascot was cool.
Is
Like everything.
Eastern Washington that? Because I know Eastern Washington has the red
It might
field.
be. Yeah,
I have
I
no
think it
idea
might.
if they're the Red Wolves, but they're red.
Yeah, I know we played some team.
We'll look that up, but comment down below
Yeah,
and correct us.
for
Is it
sure.
Eastern
Yeah,
Washington, Central Washington? Who are the Red Wolves?
yeah. It's
Um,
the Wildcats, Central Washington Wildcats. So I think the other one is the Red Wolf.
yeah.
Yeah.
And number 2, the Legends. It's not at first. It's kind of like, but it kind of there's precedence for it. I mean, the G League basketball team here in Dallas is called the Texas
Texas.
Legends.
Yeah.
So the Washington Legends. I mean, there's
But who
tie-ins
would they
to.
be?
I mean, there's
Like who
tie-ins
are
to
the
American history, generals, American heroes, maybe.
heroes? Yeah, I don't. Who are the legends then? Like if that's the case, like unless they're talking about like the American, legends or I'm not sure.
Yeah. Like I mean, who are the Texas
Like,
Legends? I mean, I don't think
yeah,
we really care that much because it's a
yeah,
minor
G
league
League.
basketball team.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's not terrible. Maybe
I
like
mean,
a
yeah,
four.
who would your mascot be?
Yeah, who'd your mascot be?
George
So like,
Washington.
that's a four. That's like a four for me. Like,
Yeah, I
I do
mean,
like the name Legends. I do like the name Legends. I don't know.
yeah, legend. You think more it'd be big people, big names that
Mhm.
what you think of them is a little. The history's kind of skewed to make them seem supernatural or something like that. Not
Mhm.
supernatural, but just bigger or better than they were.
Mhm.
I mean, there's precedences like George Washington didn't really have wooden teeth,
Oh,
apparently.
like,
Yeah, we grew up learning that. And like there were a lot of,
yeah.
yeah, there are a lot of myths to make people sound more interesting or greater or whatever. Not that him having wooden teeth makes him any better. I
Right.
don't know where that even came from, but more like folk tales. American folk tales are
Mhm.
the legends. But yeah, it's kind of hard to. You can't think too much into it. You're
Mhm.
thinking too hard. Uh, the famous saying, it makes sense if you don't think about it. But the Washington Legends does sound, it kind of rolls off the tongue, kind of
Yeah, it
nice.
rolls off the tongue for sure.
But no, mine for sure would be the Red Wolves.
I like that. Red Wolves or Red Tails.
Yeah,
Either
never
those.
Americans, Ambassadors, Hogs. What else we got? Warriors. Red Tails or Red Wolves, I would like it. It puts, although I don't even like their rival, the Dallas Cowboys, but the Cowboys
Mhm.
versus the Red Wolves or the Red Tails. I think that would be really
I think
cool.
we'll do
Yeah, see, now that you think about it, legends wouldn't really make sense because I think one of your American
that.
legends would be the cowboy.
Exactly.
So you could just
Yeah.
make fun of them,
Right.
like yeah, the Cowboys already
Yeah.
there.
Hmm.
Um, guys, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Sports Page. I know it was a quick one, and um, tell us y'all's thoughts on what Washington could be named if that's going to be a thing for y'all. If y'all even think they're going to be changed. Um,
Hmm.
anyways, please subscribe, follow us. Make sure to follow us on social media platforms. On the YouTube, subscribe. Social media, you follow, like, share, do whatever. Help us
Yeah.
grow. And thanks for listening. We'll see y'all next time.
See you guys.